Dear colleagues and friends, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Today we are going to discuss how researchers, clinicians and authors can use bibliometrics, for example, for writing their articles. And it's a big pleasure and honor to introduce our today's speaker, Armen Gasparyan. He is our regular lecturer and supporter of numerous seminars and webinars in the past 2 years. Dr. Armen is an editor of several influential medical journals and expert reviewer of Scopus database. I would like to say that today's webinar is a truly international webinar because we have participants from different countries, Poland, Ukraine, Turkey, also Bulgaria and Croatia. Let's start our program. Dr. Armen, your first presentation is about how to write articles in view of citation metrics. I have to allow you to share your presentation with us. Now you can do this. We encourage our participants to ask questions. You can ask questions personally after Dr. Armen's presentation, or you can type your question into the chat box on your Zoom panel. Both variants are possible.
Okay, good. So you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. Everything is fine. Yes.
Okay. So, dear colleagues, friends, regular participants and newcomers to our webinar series, it's a great pleasure and honor to be with you today and share my updates on writing scholarly articles, ranking rheumatology and other medical journals, and also how to use Scopus searches and bibliometric and altmetric information for writing your articles. So as a clinician, as an expert in rheumatology and rheumatology journals, I'm quite interested in indexing, ranking, and promotion of first of all, rheumatology journals. The list of rheumatology journals, which is the field itself, is rapidly developing, and this is why the list of indexed rheumatology journals is now expanding, and there are many good rheumatology journals, startup journals, and journals with a number of good articles, influential articles with a lot of citations and social media attention. All these rheumatology journals influence science growth globally and regionally. So most of these journals you see on the screen, most of these journals are owned and published by rheumatology societies, like here you see Rheumatologia, Bulgarian Society of Rheumatology Journal, Mediterranean Journal of Rheumatology, published by Greek Society of Rheumatology, and many other society journals. And these journals are fortunate because they are supported by their experts, members of their professional communities, and this is why they have healthy influx or inflow of quality manuscripts. This is why their indexability and maintenance status in Scopus, Web of Science, and other bibliographic databases is stable. So it's great to have rheumatology journals owned and published by professional society. However, there are also other journals published by startup or established open access scholarly publishers like Dove Press, Open Access Rheumatology Research and Reviews. And these type of open access journals are now popular, quite popular, because of Plan S international movement. And from next year onward, almost all scholarly journals, peer-reviewed journals, should endorse and publish open access because of the decision of consortium members of Plan S, which is global open access movement, part of global access movement. So we'll see some new open access journals entering Scopus database and also SCImago journal and country rank. We'll discuss today these platforms and particularly ranking platforms, which are useful to some extent and also necessary for ranking within certain subject categories. So you probably know about some editorial associations, and these associations are supporting quality publishing, ethical publishing. You probably know that International Committee of Medical Journal Editors is one of the highly prestigious global association with members from different countries, from different corners of the world. Particularly, we know that this association unites journal editors of New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, Journal of Korean Medical Science, and some other regional small general medical journals. So we know that Council of Science Editors, US-based editorial association, is also quite prestigious and quite powerful in enforcing standards of scholarly writing and ethical publishing. World Association of Medical Editors, also member of International Committee of Medical Editors. These association with its online forum unites thousands of chief editors of medical journals, and it's considered the largest editorial association. We also know about Committee on Publication Ethics with around 13,000 members of different journals from different language and professional backgrounds. And we also should know about Equator Standards. Equator is a group of journal editors, statisticians, publishers, promoting standards, research reporting standards, and almost all 99% of peer-reviewed medical journals are now considering Equator research reporting standards as guidelines for drafting and editing manuscripts and submissions to medical journals. Finally, I'd like to draw your attention to DORA Declaration on Research Assessment, San Francisco Declaration, which was endorsed and publicized in 2012. This declaration is about diversity of scholarly metrics, particularly journal metrics, and individual or author metrics. There is a diversity of this type of metrics based on citations and also altmetrics. So we should use a diversity of metrics to evaluate quality and activity of different journals and also different individual scholars or authors. Main recommendations for authors include guidelines from International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Last update was published in 2019, before the pandemic. And there is also white paper on promoting integrity in scientific journal publications by Council of Science Editors, US-based association. This association promotes standards in writing, scholarly writing, reviewing, and structuring references of articles based on acceptable professional and ethical standards. So I strongly recommend to familiarize with these two fundamental recommendations for authors, reviewers, and editors. International Committee of Medical Journal Editors is the oldest, one of the oldest editorial associations with its recommendations. Initially, it was called Unified Recommendations for Medical Journals, but today revised latest revision of recommendations of this association is useful not only for medical but also for allied and for non-medical journals, because principles of scholarly writing and editing are universal, particularly when it comes to publication ethics. So who is author? We know about 4 authorship criteria. Why they should use digital identifiers, because ORCID IDs are essential for increasing visibility of publications, promotion of articles, and also for increasing ethical standing of the authors and also journals. Predatory journals. Of course, there are also some substandard or poor quality journals, ignoring almost all ethical regulations, ethical recommendations, digitization. So these predatory journals exist merely to milk authors, and these journals and publishers, predatory publishers, rely on naive, inexperienced authors who are ready to submit their even precious articles to any online journals. So recommendations also point to certain statistical points. Particularly, we know that p-values cannot be considered as metrics or parameters used to confirm or to reject efficiency of drug therapies. So we should always dig deeper and consider other statistical parameters other than p-value. And we'll discuss some of these statistical points later today. References. All authors usually consider accessible platforms, digital libraries, or even physical libraries to retrieve, process, and cite articles. However, nowadays, authors are advised to search through reliable bibliographic databases such as Scopus, Web of Science, Medline, and cite widely visible articles supported or endorsed by the global scholarly community, and those containing reliable or verifiable information. International Committee of Medical Journal Editors introduced disclosure of interest form or conflict of interest form earlier this year in February, few months ago. So this form is now widely used by all medical journals endorsing recommendations of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. You probably know that there are only 12 members of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, plus 2 big associations or library, National Library of Medicine. However, there are thousands of medical and allied journals endorsing their recommendations. So all these journals now use this form, disclosure form. There are some amendments in this form, particularly related to disclosure of all types of scholarly activities that may be considered as conflicting. Any support from pharmaceutical industry, any financial or non-financial support that may introduce bias in activities of authors, reviewers, and journal editors should be disclosed using this form. And this is something that that is new, and not all journal editors, reviewers, and authors are familiar with. So I encourage you all to go through this form, read carefully, and when you are asked to submit field form, please try to respond to these questions or points correctly, and draft related statements in your manuscripts in accordance with your statements. International Committee of Medical Journal Editors and their recommendations are endorsed by thousands of medical journal editors. Here I presented one of the newcomers, one of the relatively new journals, Central Asian Journal of Medical Hypothesis and Ethics, which started, launched 2 years ago. So, and immediately after the launch, this journal officially declared adherence to International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. It's easy to declare this adherence. Simply, you should, journal editors should go to the platform of this editorial association and fill in information about their journals. And of course, it's necessary also to not just to officially declare adherence, but also enforce adherence to ethical and other principles of scholarly publishing. Here you see this good example of Kazakhstani or Central Asian journal that officially endorsed guidelines of WAMI, COP, Sarajevo Declaration, International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, Council of Science Editors, and also with support of Open Science in Ukraine Technical Support Agency, improved its online platform on Open Journal System, established links to several online platforms, search engines, and we hope that this startup journal will be an example, good example, for all new and established journals struggling with digitization, internationalization, and also indexing with even with basic search engines and some bibliographic databases. So we should always consider a variety of declarations in the field of scholarly publishing to succeed in publishing good quality articles. And for Eastern European journal editors and authors, it's of paramount importance to work on locally important subjects or regionally important subjects and publish articles of prime importance to local audience. So, for example, if a journal editor publishes a Bulgarian journal, most articles in a Bulgarian articles should concern with issues in Bulgaria, let's say rheumatology journal. But if, let's say, a Ukrainian journal, Ukrainian rheumatology journal, starts publishing articles by US or British scientists without any relevance to Ukrainian context, these type of articles are useless, and indexability of this type of journals also quite low. So I strongly encourage our today's participants, authors, reviewers, and editors to think locally and act globally. So first of all, you should work and you should publish articles and or works of local importance. Authors should know about authorship criteria. We discussed in detail all these International Committee of Medical Journal Editors criteria, four criteria of authorship. Today, I just would like to uh, discuss also credit system, contributor role taxonomy, which is quite detailed description of authorship contributions or authors' involvement in a scholarly article. You should know that authors can be considered as authors because of generating ideas, conceptualization, because of uh, changing or contributing to methods, choosing methods, software use, let's say statistical software or software to check manuscript, search engines to retrieve literature, validation, analysis of data, uh, technical support, resources, obtaining resources, let's say literature data, individual articles, and also data curation. All these type of technical activities are important, but of course the main part of contributing to a scholarly article is drafting the first version of a scholarly article. It's considered as one of the main and most important part of writing articles. Visualization, drawing graphics, drawing figures, tables, these type of activities are also important for improving visibility, readability of articles. So I know that not all authors, particularly clinicians, not all clinicians are good at drawing. So sometimes it is necessary to invite a co-author who is good at drawing. So this type of contribution also valuable. And of course, most supervisors or head departments of head departments, specialists who supervise, who are administrator with lack of time, uh, they also need articles, they also contribute, but their role is quite different, and mostly refers to obtaining funding, discussing project or promoting project, obtaining support from grant funding agencies. These type of activities are also important, but not as important as drafting first version of the work. So we know that some journals moved to the credit system, and they ask authors to fill in these points at the start, at the submission of their articles. So don't be confused, simply know that all types of scholarly activities currently count, and you may satisfy authorship criteria by different types of scholarly or non-scholarly contributions. Now, about drafting different types of articles. First of all, I should inform our fellows that narrative, systematic, and all other types of review articles are valuable source of information, and most publishers, established and startup publishers, are interested in processing and publishing more review articles. Review articles are well read, widely well cited. So most journals, particularly startup journals, are interested in publishing more review articles. But of course, not all review articles are equal in their quality. Some review articles, or so-called mini review articles, are just brief counts on literature sources, too short, not well cited. So the best articles are, the best reviews are those covering, comprehensively covering literature in certain field of interest, or so-called scoping reviews. These type of articles concentrate or focus on certain point and attract a lot of citations. So, and we know that citations are hard currencies of scholarly communities in any country. And this is why the more you publish review articles, the more you attract citations to your articles, the higher your academic or scholarly rank. There are different types of review articles. Even some editorials, non-peer-reviewed articles, may be considered as review articles by databases. Let's say PubMed sometimes classify or categorize editorials as review articles automatically based on reference list of this type of articles. Because up to now, there are no any limits to no any strict limits of reference lists. Some editorials may contain more than 100 references, whereas narrative reviews may be based on just 30, 40 references. But of course, the main types of review articles are narrative reviews and qualitative systematic reviews without meta-analysis. Most journals frequently process and publish this type of articles, and of course, reviewers who evaluate uh, these type of articles should know about comprehensive and systematic search strategies. And they should also know that equator network standards exist to guide authors to recommend, without any coercion, to recommend how to draft, how to report their systematic reviews. Here you see PRISMA guidelines, PRISMA standard. Here you see PRISMA flow chart, how flow diagram, how to process sources from different bibliographic databases, how to exclude, and how to process limited number of articles in specifically meeting your aims and goals of your systematic review. However, systematic reviews and narrative reviews should be based on certain principles of searches through bibliographic databases, and I strongly encourage you to familiarize with recommendations published years ago in 2011 in a rheumatology journal. These guidelines, these standards, so-called standard of drafting narrative reviews, include statement on access, on importance of accessing Scopus, Medline, Web of Science, and also specialist databases. So we cannot rely on just one bibliographic database, even if this database is evidence-based and covers most items in your field of interest. Let's say Medline. We cannot publish articles, review articles based on PubMed or Medline. We should expand our searches. We should include other databases. And this recommendation is based on knowledge that multidisciplinary and specialist bases, they have overlaps in coverage. However, they also have differences in covering different sources. And the more we cover sources, the more we process literature data, the more comprehensive is our review article. For all those who are going to write narrative and systematic reviews, PICO tool is of great importance. So PICO is based on abbreviation of patient, intervention, comparator, outcomes, and also types of study. PICO or PICOS. So of course, for systematic reviews, it's desirable to retrieve certain types of articles, let's say clinical trials, and process specific types of articles. If you have clinical trials, you retrieve clinical trials, you may publish systematic review based on clinical trials. If there are no clinical trials in your field of interest, then you should go further. You may search for large cohort studies, then case control studies. If there are these type of articles are not published, then you can go further and process case series or even individual case reports, expert opinion. So sometimes systematic reviews may also include articles with lower level of evidence, let's say case series. But of course, it's desirable to process articles with higher level of evidence and meeting certain quality standards. At the start of drafting systematic reviews, authors should register their articles with Prospero registry, and it's easy. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they suspended registration of non-COVID-19 systematic reviews, and authors may do something different. They may publish protocol of their systematic reviews with journals processing protocols of systematic reviews. It's also acceptable, and it's a sort of equivalent of Prospero registration. So why we need to publish systematic reviews protocols at start? Because they're to secure novelty and to avoid redundancies at a later stage. Narrative reviews can be also published, but without registration. This is one of the limitations of this type of articles, because sometimes different author groups work on the same subject and publish narrative reviews on the same subject in different journals. So journal editors who published certain reviews should be very careful when they process reviews with the same scope, with the same references. It's better to reject these type of articles than to publish and then have overlapping narrative reviews in bibliographic databases. Titles, how to structure titles of different types of articles. The main principle, of course, these titles should be reflective and at the same time concise. However, titles should also include the main keywords of your articles, because titles are widely visible, the most visible parts of your articles, and often readers read articles if they are interested, if they find your article titles interesting. Sometimes it is necessary to put question mark, but never put exclamation in your article title, because it's too imperative, it's too strong, too powerful. There is no need to use exclamation marks unless your titles cover something unusual, editorial or editorial cartoon or something to attract attention of your readers. Sometimes question marks are used in review articles if review conclusion or results of review articles contain answers to your question marks. I always read seminar review articles in Lancet journal. For me, Lancet is a source, a didactic source, or source of education, continuing education. And I also recommend all seminar reviews in Lancet to our webinar participants. So let's say you see title of this quite old review article, Familial Mediterranean Fever, just one keyword, and it's enough, and it's clear that this review article is about comprehensively covers everything about etiology, pathogenesis, diagnostics, treatment, and prevention of familial Mediterranean fever. There was also another article in the same journal, Familial Mediterranean Fever in Arabs. So scope of these, the latter, these review is narrower, and of course, citation implications of review specifically focusing on certain fields is of course smaller, regardless of journals publishing articles. Lancet publishes seminar reviews, and their review articles are of course exemplary, widely read, cited. Their search strategies are also important to know, so we may learn something. However, the Lancet publishes review articles relying just on one platform, PubMed or Medline. We do not recommend these type of articles for specialist journals, for journals with relatively lower rank, because aims are different. So Lancet may publish review articles based on PubMed searches only. However, you see that they also consider a variety of keywords. They also consider timelines of searches, and also inform readers of what type of articles were predominantly processed by authors. So you see one of the examples of latest examples in Lancet Journal covering COVID-19. And this article is also widely promoted on social media in some countries, particularly by social media users in US. Unfortunately, the whole Eurasia, the whole Russia, Central Asia, Mongolia are not interested for some reason, are not interested in Lancet review covering this particular issue. So what is important? This review article is bookmarked by Mendeley users. So Mendeley is an individual library reference manager widely used by Anglophone authors, and counts related to individual articles associate with citations. So Mendeley counts or bookmarking counts may predict citations at the start of promoting articles. You also see that this particular article in Lancet is commented, extensively commented on Twitter with more than 850 tweets. So why tweets important? Because sometimes they catch the essence of articles, and readers may also navigate from Twitter to journal website based on discussion on Twitter. Twitter is quite popular online platform for open scholarly discussion, and Anglophone world, Anglophone scholars rely on tweets, and they also influence altmetrics a lot by tweeting, by generating tweets with or without comments. Of course, Lancet is a journal widely processed by news outlets, and this is why number of counts from news outlets, magazines, popular magazines, newspapers is quite high. And of course, blogs. There are some influential blogs, scholarly blogs, following publications in this journal, Lancet, and frequently discussing contents in Lancet. Hopefully, in Eastern Europe, scholars will also start using blogs for commenting, for promoting their own articles in their local journals, and it's also now part of open access culture and also promotion of articles. Another example in a specialist journal where search strategy is diverse, includes multidisciplinary and also specialist databases, Web of Science multidisciplinary platform, and also Medline specialist database, CINAHL database for nurses, Sport Discus on EBSCO host aggregator for rehabilitation and sports medicine specialists. So the more you use reliable databases, the higher quality of your systematic and narrative review article. How we structure review articles. Uh, Numerous narrative reviews in Eastern Europe, in Southern Europe, still is published without any structure. However, journals without structure, without subheadings, without review articles, without subheadings, difficult to follow and difficult to read. This is why articles with full text without subheadings are less likely to be cited. This is why I included this important point. Structuring by major subheadings is important for narrative review articles. Now about multidisciplinary databases, Scopus and Web of Science. Scopus is one of the largest, if not the largest, bibliographic database of scholarly literature, and a well-controlled database, regularly updated, well digitized, and easy to use. This is Scopus is also advantageous because it has a number of open access tools for processing data, for retrieving journal lists, etc., etc. Specialist databases. Of course, medics use Medline via PubMed platform. Pharmacy, pharmacology, toxicology specialists use Embase, Excerpta Medica. Specialists interested in evidence-based, they process Cochrane Library or Central or Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews. Nurses use CINAHL. Specialists in public health, in epidemiology, clinical epidemiology, agriculture science, toxicology, they often search through Global Health, which is part of CAB International. So this is also considered as a specialist database. PsycInfo database for neurologists, psychologists, and psychiatrists. This database is subscription-based, part of American Psychological Association, and their indexing criteria are quite tough, almost equal to Medline. For rehabilitation specialists, physiotherapists, PEDRO, or Physiotherapy Evidence Database, Australian database is important, and it now covers more than 50,000 clinical trials in the field of rehabilitation, physical medicine, and physiotherapy. And you see that all these physiotherapeutic treatment modalities are well represented, particularly in PEDRO database. And I hope that our physical medicine and rehabilitation specialists, PMR specialists, will also consider searches through PEDRO database for writing narrative review articles and also systematic review articles. The advantage of this particular database is that it's free database without subscription. You can search for clinical trials in the field of physiotherapy and rehabilitation, for systematic reviews and other types of evidence-based articles. Now, what type of evidence-based approach is important for drafting our articles, particularly narrative reviews and systematic reviews? We should recall evidence-based pyramid. You see that the top of this pyramid consists of systematic reviews and randomized controlled trials. And at the bottom, we have case series, individual case reports, and expert opinion. When we write narrative reviews, we should first retrieve clinical trials, analyze them separately, then process cohort studies, case control studies, and at the end, if there are no articles of higher level of evidence, we should process lower evidence-based articles, case series, or expert opinion. If you use this principle for processing literature, your narrative review articles will be of high quality. However, if you mix different types of article categories, different types of evidences, so quality of your narrative review article drops. For systematic reviews, again, you should concentrate specifically on clinical trials, if clinical trials exist. If there are no clinical trials, let's say in the field of COVID-19, then you should search for cohort studies, large cohort studies, or if there are no large cohort studies, small cohort studies. And ultimately, if there are no higher level of evidence articles, then for COVID-19, in the field of COVID-19, you may rely even on single or individual case reports, because case reports are abundantly published in the era of COVID-19 to describe this disease, to describe its manifestations, side effects, complications, and also treatment approaches. So approaches to evidence base differ, and this difference relies on subject. The same refers to Behçet's disease. Today we have participants from Turkey who are experts in Behçet's disease. They also know that main evidence on Behçet's disease comes from clinical or individual case reports describing different clinical manifestations of Behçet's disease. Now, we also should know that narrative reviews also consider systematic reviews for analysis. So we should think, first of all, about systematic reviews, then clinical trials, and low level of evidence articles. For retrieving relevant systematic reviews, we go to Cochrane database of systematic reviews, perform searches. There are currently 15,000 plus systematic reviews, Cochrane reviews, available for searches via PubMed. And we know that all these Cochrane systematic reviews include thorough searches through different evidence-based databases. In the field of COVID-19, there are just 46 systematic reviews, and those who are writing narrative reviews may also consider relevant systematic reviews in this topic, in this field, and also cite this article. The latest systematic review, so-called living systematic review, because evidence is expanding in this field, and systematic review also improving, expanding to cover new data. And the name of this systematic review, this is why, is living. So these living reviews suggest that vitamin D supplementation in COVID-19 neither important nor useful. It's indifferent. So based on current evidence, so we cannot recommend COVID supplementation, vitamin D supplementation to treat patients with COVID-19, particularly those with severe forms of COVID-19. Another database of Cochrane database called Central or Cochrane Central Register of Controlled Trials includes about 2 million registered clinical trials, and some of these clinical trials also relate, clinical trials relate to COVID-19. So these clinical trials are, this database processes randomized and quasi-randomized controlled trials, records of these database of this database processes clinical trials published or indexed by PubMed, Embase, CINAHL, clinicaltrials.gov, and also WHO Registry of Clinical Trials. So Central is considered the largest database of ongoing and published clinical trials. Sometimes for review articles, narrative review articles, also important to cite clinical trials. Now, about Behçet's disease or Behçet syndrome. I used this term, Behçet syndrome, because MESH, medical subject headings, MESH database of structured keywords tagged this disease. They included this definition under the keyword Behçet syndrome. So, and based on latest data, there are more than 9,000 PubMed index Behçet syndrome articles. Out of these, more than 3,000 Behçet syndrome articles are case reports. I activated case reports filter on PubMed to find out how many Behçet syndrome clinical cases have been published so far. And you see that this percentage, 1/3 of articles in this field are case reports. The number of systematic reviews, clinical trials, much smaller. Now, how we structure review articles. Again, I emphasize the importance of using at least 2 global evidence-based databases. Never cite unpublished articles or published from popular magazines, non-peer-reviewed media. Sometimes you may cite so-called gray literature or documents endorsed by your ministries, by your administrations. However, evidence is of paramount importance for writing narrative and systematic review articles. There is also a list of unacceptable references, such as retracted items. So I recommend all our participants to familiarize with recommendations on citing references and cite proper, widely visible articles. Editorials. These are important for particularly for startup journals to organize editorial work, but established journals also consider editorials as valuable articles for disseminating information about clinical trials, large cohort studies, something that is published in your journals. Case studies, the level of evidence in case studies, case reports is lower compared to clinical trials and cohort studies. However, even individual case reports can be considered as evidence or scientific facts in certain fields, let's say in Behçet's syndrome field, and clinical cases are still published by Lancet, by New England Journal of Medicine, and I hope that our participants will also target these top scientific journals. Why case reports are important? Because they may describe side effects of certain drugs. They may provide incentives to researchers who are going to start prospective studies, trials. Of course, equator standards are important for drafting this type of articles. Original research papers should be drafted in line with IMRAD, or Introduction, Methods, Results, and Discussion recommendations of International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. In introduction, you should summarize novelty, provide some short historic or epidemiological data, and also describe keywords. In methods, authors described when the study conducted, inclusion and exclusion criteria. It's always important how and where patients were recruited, and of course, detailed description of new diagnostic tests, new drugs that are used. Statistical analysis should always include information about testing your parameters for normality by Kolmogorov-Smirnov for small sample sizes and Shapiro-Wilk for larger sample sizes. Sometimes even visual evaluation by authors based on graphs of distribution of parameters is sufficient to judge whether parameters are normally or not normally distributed. And based on this basic statistical test or basic evaluation, authors should carry out relevant statistical tests, such as Mann-Whitney for non-parametrically or not normally distributed data, or t-test for normally distributed data. And of course, we as medics always should consider regression analysis, linear or logistic regression analysis, to correct for multiple confounding factors. And it's easy if you use SPSS statistical package, because everyone knows about this package. Tutorial of this package is also available on YouTube freely. And most researchers are currently using this easy to understand package. This package is useful for novice and seasoned researchers and authors. When we process data, when we report results, we should remember that p-values not always enough. Sometimes if we deal with, particularly with small sample sizes, we need to know about 95% confidence intervals. And confidence intervals are especially important for regression analysis, and our researchers, participants should know how to evaluate significant and non-significant ranges of 95% confidence intervals. Discussion and conclusion. What we know, of course, Eastern European and Southern European scientists should always acknowledge limitations of their studies. Now, a few words about cohort studies. These are non-experimental observational research studies. Subjects are homogeneous, let's say patients with certain disease, with certain bad habits. Cohort studies can be prospective or retrospective. We always consider exposure to certain factors and also may track outcomes. So exposure and outcome always explored in cohort studies. In retrospective or archival studies, which are currently used by online researchers, this type of research is also valuable. However, adherence to drug therapies, adherence to medical technologies, not easy to reveal in these type of archival or retrospective studies. We should also know that in cohort studies, some patients may, data on some patients we may lose data, which is important in view of validity of cohort studies. So always consider follow-up, how many patients were lost at follow-up in cohort studies. And we may also visualize by using Kaplan-Meier graphs or curves to analyze exposure and outcome. Let's say exposure to smoking and death in patients followed on Framingham cohort. When we separately analyze cases and controls in cohort studies, this type of studies called nested control studies, it's also possible to analyze. However, we narrow our scope of interest, and these type of articles are useful for evaluating, let's say, CRP validity, CRP value, or other biomarkers. Case control studies, these are considered a slightly lower level of evidence, lower compared to large cohort studies. Again, these are observational studies. We should match our cases and controls by age, gender, and possibly other factors. These studies are far from real life studies because we artificially separate peak subjects from certain groups. And this is why we also should know that case control studies have their inherent limitations due to difference from real life studies. In cross-sectional studies, we focus our attention to certain type of data without knowing about association of exposure to outcome. We simply analyze at certain time point. Some surveys are also considered cross-sectional studies, and we should know that cross-sectional studies should be conducted in short period of time, within 2 days, within 1 week. Let's say surveys. Surveys, a few words about surveys. These are reported based on SurveyMonkey or Google Forms analysis, which allow us to visualize graphs to calculate based on robust analysis of data. And there is also recommendation recently published by Olena Zimba and co-authors suggesting that surveys should be properly planned. Design should be discussed among authors at the start of research. What type of questions, open questions, closed questions are included in survey. Surveys should be concise, not on 7 pages, not on 10 pages, just 1-2 pages of 15 to 30 questions, which are easy to answer within 10, 15, or up to 30 minutes. And of course, at the all these studies, surveys need ethical approval or waiver of ethics by local ethics committee. These should be validated. Validated means disseminated to a small number of potential respondents to correct based on their feedback, and then start larger scale survey involving larger populations. Of course, nowadays we rely on social media or online open access online platforms on Twitter to disseminate surveys and also to analyze data. Observational studies, observational research studies should be structured or reported using equator standard called STROBE. Survey studies need adherence to, again, relevant standard called CHERIS. Clinical trials should be registered at the start, not post factum, not after clinical trial. And there is a list of trials acceptable by International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, particularly clinicaltrials.gov, which includes thousands of ongoing and registered and finalized clinical trials. The list of registries, clinical trial registers, includes WHO registry. And of course, after successful publication of different types of articles, you are requested to promote your articles on Twitter, include records on your ORCID ID, archive PDF of your article on ResearchGate if you are allowed, if your article is for open access, and of course include records of your article on Google Scholar, reposit your article with permission from publisher on your institutional database, institutional repository to increase visibility of your article. There are many online platforms, numerous online platforms for promotion, post-publication promotion. Some of these, let's say Mendeley, considered as social networking platform, social media, and also reference manager, but authors may also bookmark their own articles on Mendeley and also cite their own articles if these articles are relevant. Over to our moderator. If you have any questions, I'm open to your questions. Now it's time to discuss briefly the raised points.
Dear Armen, thank you very much for your excellent, very informative and insightful presentation. We have some comments from our participants from Jurek. In my view, the title of a paper is usually formulated, phrased at the final stage of article writing, after all content and the main body of the manuscript have been completed. Because there are sometimes surprising ideas and nuance for the title.
Professor Konstantinovich from Bialystok, Poland, thank you very much for excellent question, helping me to think more about not just titles of articles, but also research projects. Even titles of PhD studies can be changed amidst throughout research project and at the end of research project. So you are right. Title of any article can be amended throughout writing, throughout drafting, reviewing article, and also even at the stage of proofreading, because of linguistic mistakes, because of incorrect coverage of keywords, and structuring titles without attractiveness. So titles of articles should be attractive for readers, should include keywords, should be at the same time concise and sometimes should include study design, let's say retrospective or prospective cohort study or case control studies, but never use study design in your narrative review articles. That's not needed because editors usually categorize narrative review articles um, when they process accepted articles. So for narrative reviews, we do not recommend to put term a review, a narrative review, or even scoping review. There is no need. But observational research studies, clinical trials should include study design in their second part of article titles.
We encourage our participants to ask questions because topic is really important and we have time to discuss all nuances. Dr. Arman, question to you, how to choose the best target journal? Could you provide us with some advice?
So our second presentation, today's presentation, will tell you about ranking different journals, particularly rheumatology journals, because it's my main field of interest at the moment. So usually we go to Scopus database. Again, at the end of this today's webinar, I'll play with Scopus platform to show how to process sources or literature data and how to rank journals. These are part of applied bibliometrics. So target journals are primarily chosen based on their impact, so-called impact. Nowadays, we consider impact in view of citation implications and also altmetric implications. So startup journals without indexing may be also attractive if they are widely promoted, widely present on social media, and they are also quite influential. So we should choose target journals based on metrics, based on our interests, based on personal invitations. We know that chief editors of startup journals sometimes invite best authors to contribute to their journals. So over the past few months, I've contacted and invited some influential authors like Jeffrey Bill, like #1 toxicologist from Iran, like eminent journal editor from Croatia, and all of them responded to my requests, submitted their precious articles to startup journal without impact indicators. So how to choose target journals? There are a number of factors for targeting journals and publishing articles in journals.
And probably based on journal model.
You're right. Open access journals are now more attractive, and some, let's say, Springer Nature journals are moving towards open access, and some rheumatology journals like Rheumatology and Therapy Journal accepts articles for publication after they charge authors or their institutions more than around $6,000 for articles. So it's pricey, but we are gradually moving to open access. Of course, open access is also one of the factors influencing our choices of target journals. The best target journals for Eastern European colleagues are, of course, platinum or diamond open access journals without any publication charges for authors, without funding or authors from lower, middle, or income, low or middle income countries.
Thank you. We can move on to the next item of our the question from Professor Stoika. If one does not have good experimental articles in the subject, is it not recommended to prepare review articles?
Any journal should publish a mix of review articles and narrative review articles, systematic review articles, original research papers. It suggests that the portfolio of that journal is rich enough to publish a diversity of article categories. However, research teams usually publish also mixture of articles. This is why I strongly recommend institutions to publish narrative review articles, systematic review articles, surveys, original research papers, cohort studies, and case studies, letters. Other questions?
Okay, don't have any questions at that moment. It means that we can move on the next item, I think.
Let me share my screen.
Yes.
And move on to our next presentation. Okay. Sorry for the trouble with sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see. Please come back.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay, stop sharing probably, yeah?
Let's try again. Arman, I cannot hear you. You are muted.
Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see your presentation. Please start from beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, everything is fine. Yes.
Okay, good. So we are going to discuss Scopus-based metrics, but for medics, Scopus without PubMed, without Medline, we should always combine searches via PubMed with Scopus. So in PubMed, and we search for mesh keywords, structured keywords, and today we are going to discuss two items related to two mesh keywords, bibliographic databases and periodicals as topic. So now, when I combine these two mesh keywords and perform searches on Scopus, I retrieve a number of articles, and some of these are highly cited. So one of these highly cited articles is about Scimago Journal and Country Rank. Why I highlight this article? Because nowadays there is an obsession with quartiles, which are incorrectly used for ranking different types of journals. First quartile, fourth quartile, and this is also important This is also viewed by bibliographic database experts, particularly Scopus experts, with understanding that all these metrics, particularly SCImago journal and country rank metrics, are not something that we should use blindly. So we should use all metrics wisely, particularly SCImago journal rank metric, which is used by SCImago journal and country rank platform for ranking general medical and specialist journals. So here is one of the first highly cited articles on SCImago journal rank indicator, which was compared by experts in journal editing with journal impact factor. And initially it was proposed as an alternative to journal impact factor. However, nowadays it damages reputation of startup or small journals, these SCImago journal and country rank, and I'll explain why a bit later. So as an old article published in 2008, these you see that altmetric attention score of this article not so impressive, number of tweets just 8. However, this article is highly cited on Scopus and Dimensions platforms, well bookmarked on Mendeley platform. This is why this article is important. So when I continue searching bibliographic databases and periodicals as topic, this field, I see that some of these articles relate to Scopus, access to information, information dissemination, and for bibliometric analysis, this type of analysis is also important. Of course, visualization using VOS viewer is important. However, manually, you as authors may also calculate percentages of different keywords, important keywords in certain fields of interest. Particularly in this particular case, I can calculate percentage of Scopus or access to information and compare with other not so or with trendy or not so trendy keywords. Now about Scopus, why we use Scopus? Because all specialists have agreed to use Scopus for ranking journals, for evaluating publication activity and productivity of academic institutions, universities, and almost all existing world university ranking systems, QS ranking system, the Times Higher Education ranking system, consider Scopus-based articles for ranking universities. This is why it's important also to rank journals based on Scopus. Scopus is a database covering more than 40 plus languages from different professional fields. Currently, there are about 23,000 journals actively indexed by Scopus, so it is the largest, well-organized, reliable bibliographic database. Though I should inform you that still there are some inaccuracies and mistakes, technical mistakes in this database, which are easily corrected if you contact Scopus help desk. Scopus, I took this slide from Twitter channel of Scopus, and you see that now they increased the latest count of Scopus indexed journals, peer-reviewed journals is reaching 26,000 journals. And you also see that there are also conference proceedings and books, particularly in the field of computer science, that can be considered for Scopus indexing. Scopus is not just platform for journals, peer-reviewed journals. It also covers different types of other sources, trade journals, conference proceedings, book series, and this type of sources also actively influence Scopus metrics. Why the number of Scopus index journals increased? Because over the past few years, Scopus improved their evaluation process, made it more oriented towards quality, not just towards citations, but also to quality. And this is why some new journals with low citations are also covered by Scopus, particularly over the past few years. Some successful startup journals have been also covered by Scopus. Scopus uses a number of digital tools oriented towards DOI, Digital Object Identifier, towards ORCID, Individual ID of Researchers, and also electronic or print ISSN, ID of journals. So journals that wish to be indexed by Scopus should use all these digital tools: ISSN, DOI, ORCID ID. Scopus journal selection criteria. These criteria are important for our journal editors. They should know that there are minimal and also expanded indexing criteria. First of all, English language abstracts, regular or punctual publication of issues, editorial policy of quality control, publication ethics and malpractice statement should be in place, and quality of references. All these references should be in Roman script or should be widely visible with digital object identifiers. I'm not going to discuss this new expanded indexing criteria and how to submit application, how to distinguish minimal criteria from expanded criteria. Peer review is the essence of Scopus indexing. Of course, digital IDs are important, references are important. So authors who wish to improve quality of their articles and help startup journals to be considered for indexing, they should include more relevant, highly relevant sources, updated, diversified. I know that some of our participants use so-called elitist approach, consider only top journals for citations. That's a bias towards top scientific journals. And I know some journal editors of top journals also push their authors to get rid of poorly visible or national sources and ask them to replace by top scientific sources. That's also unacceptable. So references should be diversified, should be based on searches via Scopus, PubMed, Web of Science, etc. And these sources should be relevant, highly relevant. Remember about relevance. If you consider your own articles for auto citations, you should remember, if you consider irrelevant or not so relevant articles, you will be blamed for bias towards your own articles and irrelevant, unjustified, or biased auto citations. So always know when you cite your articles in any subsequent articles, you should always consider relevance. Publication ethics and publication malpractice statements. For authors, it's also important. They should pay attention whether a journal without indexing or with indexing has publication ethics policy statement, and whether it's possible to rely on ethical standing of editors. So ethical standing of editors, ethical procedures are important to ensure quality of contents. And you as editors should also know that there are two important recommendations. First of all, Committee on Publication Ethics 10 principles, 10 points on core practices, ethical practice, and principles of transparency and best practice in scholarly publishing by a group of editorial associations and registry, the Dutch registry. These two documents are important for drafting your publication ethics statements in journal for journals, and journal authors who are going to target journals should also pay attention whether journals adhere to these principles, whether there is quality of journal platform. I know that some journal platforms in Eastern Europe, Southern Europe are unacceptably poor. Earlier today, I had discussion with a Ukrainian publisher, and I was dissatisfied with how they improve visibility of their articles. Journal platform quality should be up to high standards. For lower middle income countries, open journal system is the best free platform for improving visibility of platforms, for integration of journals with Directory of Open Access, Crossref, a number of search engines. So please consider improving your journal platforms to meet not just indexing criteria, logical requirements of open access and quality of journal platforms. Again, I'm not going to discuss technicalities of submission to Scopus. I simply jump to how we rank journals on Scopus. First of all, ranking, and you can also rank yourself, different journals, different subject categories you can visualize, you can access these ranking lists freely without having access to Scopus database. But of course, if you have access to Scopus, you may see much more. Now, we are interested today in medicine, in certain areas of general medicine, let's say rheumatology, and we'll discuss some of these journals. Of course, one of the widely promoted, well-cited journals is, #1 journal is Cancer Journal for Clinicians, Wiley journal with impressive SJR or SCImago journal rank with highest percentile and impressive number of citations to limited number of published review articles in this top journal of Wiley. In the field of rheumatology, Scopus has a list of 105 journals, but only 58 journals are currently active. The rest are not, ceased their publications, are not active, and we process in the field of rheumatology just 58 journals. Last year, this list included 66 journals, but you see that 8 journals ceased their existence because of a number of reasons. And this year, again, we'll see closure of, let's say, autoimmunity highlights, but at the same time, we'll see also newcomers, those who are going to compete with established or indexed journals with a history in Scopus database. We may consider first, second, third, fourth quartile based on site score. Remember that SCImago journal rank is calculated by SCImago journal and country rank group, not by Scopus. Scopus has site score and also displays other metrics, total citations, total documents, number of cited and non-cited, you can retrieve these data. Other than that, all other metrics are freely available from SCImago journal and country rank, but again, based on Scopus data. So there are two different ranking systems, Scopus-based and SCImago-based ranking systems for journals. In the field of rheumatology, we have, you see, different types of journals, and here I presented so-called second quartile of journals based on CITE score. You see that there are good journals in this second quartile based on Scopus data, starting from best practice and research in clinical rheumatology, CITE score 5.7, and the last journal in this quartile is BMC, musculoskeletal disorders, with a CITE score of just 3. So you should understand that CITE score has 4-year window, and journals actively publishing highly citable articles, particularly in the same year of publication, may increase the CITE score immediately. So nowadays, journals actively publishing in the field of COVID-19 attract a lot of citations because it's considered a hot topic. And these type of journals may rapidly increase the CITE score. But of course, the leading journal in the field of rheumatology is Annals of Rheumatic Diseases, with CITE score impressive, near 25, near 29, but total citations over this 4-year window nears 25,000. So 25,000 citations were aggregated over the past 4 years. So CITE score of 2020 for this top rheumatology journal is 28.7. So when we go further and analyze other journals, again, we should pay attention to a diversity of metrics, to CITE score, to number of documents, number of citations, and percentage of cited articles in the last year of calculation of CITE score. These are important metrics, and you should know the difference between CITE score calculated for 4 years and SCImago journal rank. We'll discuss it briefly a bit later. So you see all these journals, rheumatology journals in the field, ranked here, all of them are high quality journals, regardless the citation metrics. But some prefer to publish not so hot, not so citable articles. Others consider for publication hot topic or so-called trendy articles, COVID-19, or articles dealing with biologics, with biologic therapies, etc. Examples of journals. You see, clinical and experimental rheumatology. We should pay attention to how these CITE scores are calculated. If I click on this nominator, more than 4,000, I may visualize how many citations are auto citations, how many journals cite this journal and contribute to CITE score, which is monthly calculated. The recorded CITE score for 2020 is 5 for this journal, quite impressive CITE score. And again, we may go to a nominator and analyze sources of citations. So you see, these metrics are calculated by Scopus team, However, Scopus team may also considers SCImago journal and country rank, and also source normalized index for publication, SNP. Again, these are quite different, but we all should know how these calculated. So briefly, SJR considers prestige of citing sources. SNP considers whether the same field journals actively cite, let's say, rheumatology journals. General medical journals or cardiology or other subject categories are not counted for SNP. When we analyze all journals covered by Scopus, particularly for this journal, we again should go to rank, not, we may rank different articles, and we can see that the best highly cited articles, old articles, include big names in rheumatology or immunology, include cytokines, and articles also include EULAR recommendations or classification criteria. We may analyze all articles published by this journal over the whole history of this journal, paying attention to publication activity, annual publication activity, main authors publishing in this journal. So you see Stefano Bombardieri is top author, who has published 150 articles in this journal, and I know this he is the chief editor of Clinical and Experimental Rheumatology. For our journal editors, message today is to avoid publishing in your own journal, because there are some journals criticized by experts in ethics for overly publishing their own articles. These type of articles rarely reviewed, or if reviewed, there is still conflict of interests, because journal editors, subordinate journal editors, always will positively evaluate chief editors or handling editors' submissions. So the message is to avoid publishing articles by chief editors or handling editors himself. You may choose other journals. When we analyze again, we see that this journal predominantly publishes articles from Italy, though they positioned themselves as international journal. So it's acceptable to publish a lot of articles from the same country, provided you also have balance, geographic balance. You publish from other countries, from not just from developed countries, but also from developing countries. And as an editor who visited Lancet House, Elsevier House, many years ago, and discussed a lot of issues with Lancet executive editors, I know that top journals always consider diversifying their author pools, their reviewer and editor pools, by inviting experts from lower middle income countries. Now, you see that my focus now is in 2019. This journal published articles in 2019, and next year all these, can you hear me?
Yes, everything is fine.
There was slight disconnection. So
sure, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for following, for being with me. So the journal published articles in 2019, editorials, 1 year in review, 2019, and they considered articles in the same journal and other journals related to rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's syndrome, lupus. But unfortunately, if you go deeper to these editorial articles, you will see that there is abundance of journal auto citations. And this way, it's old tradition, tradition oriented towards boosting 2-year impact factor by publishing this type of editorials. I wonder whether the editors of this journal will consider other types of articles, let's say 4-year in review, to boost their site scores, or new metric from Web of Science journal citation indicator considering 3-year window. So you should know that from this year onward, Clarivate Analytics uh, is going to issue journal impact indicator for core collection, for their core collection journals, including journals indexed by Emerging Sources Citation Index. So there is no longer dominance of journal impact factor. There is also journal citation indicator from Clarivate Analytics with slightly wider window. Instead of 2-year window, 3-year window. So we see that on this slide, these articles are highly cited for 2019. And if we again go deeper and analyze all these citation indicators, we will see that these are just technical citations or citations that simply boost 2-year impact factor. These type of editorial strategies are no longer viable, and there is no need to publish editorials merely to boost 2-year impact factor or increase journal auto citations, because this type of journals immediately picked by Scopus and Web of Science evaluators who reevaluate journals on an annual basis. Again, please note that we may rank journals, particularly in the field of rheumatology, and we should pay attention who cites this journal. So this journal, again, I deliberately choose this journal because it's one of the highly cited journals. And I should pay attention to nominator of site score. Now, about top rheumatology journal. Again, those who are interested in top rank journals may analyze the whole history of this top journal, and there are more than 16,000 articles in this journal. Importantly, you see that top cited articles relate to famous Kjellgren and Lawrence assessment of osteoarthritis, radiological assessment, but altmetric score of this article not so high, 46. Why? Because it's old article and social media attention is something important for the last decade. So we may rely on importance of this article based on citation metric total citation to this article, not on altmetric attention score. So altmetric attention score is time-dependent metric. And we should understand that there are differences in culture of citation, culture of commenting 10 years ago and now. Also, you see that in this top rheumatology journal, the best articles are either classification criteria, recommendations, society recommendations by EULAR, And the latest one of the, again, journal, one of the influential article recommendation, EULAR recommendation, attracted a relatively more citation, more social media attention. Altmetric attention scores are high for EULAR recommendations. Probably some of our participants know that recommendations immediately processed by social media, immediately discussed on, and this is why you see citation, altmetric attention score of EULAR recommendation is higher compared to other types, let's say classification criteria or radiological assessment. So there is slight difference, and this difference is important not just for bibliometricians, but also for clinicians. So if a EULAR recommendation is practiced and commented widely on social media, clinicians should go to Twitter, should analyze, should read these micro blogging entries and understand why recommendations are important, how to use these EULAR recommendations. So skilled clinicians who are also active on Twitter, contribute to Twitter discussions, may benefit a lot from this information. Now, about famous HJR quartiles. Unfortunately, these HJR quartile damaged reputation of poorly cited journals, particularly this year, particularly because of elitist approach of some top journals, because in top journals, they selectively consider citations to best journals, to Nature, Science, and this is also considered as bias. I rarely or never see citations to quartile 3 or 4 journals in top scientific journals. This is why the so-called scientific prestige of Q3, Q4 journals is damaged. But it doesn't mean that using HJR quartile should be used for suppressing Q3, Q4 journals. Here you see that Nature is the top journal based on, Cancer Journal for Clinician is the top journal based on Scimago journal and journal rank. It's a prestigious metric suggesting that this journal is abundantly cited by Nature, Science, Cell, Circulation, top journals with high citation metrics. You cannot see here among the big 3, big 5, Nature. Nature is historically important, and Nature is ranked first based on H index of this journal, which is more understandable, easy to understand for journal. So this journal published 1,226 articles, each of which is cited at least 1,226 times throughout history of Nature. So top journal is Nature based on H index. However, quartile of this journal impossible to compare with previous journal, Cancer Journal for Clinicians. So now about Nature. Again, experts in bibliometrics may analyze Nature going to all articles and may also analyze citations. Of course, Nature also has its own citation habits, citation practices. They also sometimes ask authors to replace poorly visible non-English sources with better visible English sources from top journals. However, it's also, that practice was also criticized as bias towards non-English sources. So pay attention also to how these impressive site scores of Nature and top journals are calculated. For those who are going to analyze just one journal, so Nature is the top scientific journal and the best in view of a number of parameters. We may analyze more than 300,000 articles published by Nature and indexed by Scopus. The top cited journal is about microbiology, published in 1970. More than 2,000 times this article is cited by Scopus articles. However, altmetric attention score of the same article not so impressive, because and number of tweets not so impressive. However, altmetric.com provides another dimension to evaluate these articles based on other channels of commenting these articles, on patents, on Mendeley bookmarking, so and where geographically authors who cite this article, who consider this article in patents, bookmark on Mendeley are those predominantly from US. We may consider ranking different journals, but in the same category. We may use SJR based on this metric. The top journal in the field of rheumatology is Annals of Rheumatic Diseases, based on H-index, Hirsch index, arthritis and rheumatology. Now, Annals of Rheumatic Diseases, top journal. We may again go to profile of this journal in Scopus to analyze and to predict size score. We may also analyze all documents. Sometimes it's important to analyze all documents or top 100 cited articles in Annals of Rheumatic Diseases in Nature. Some specialists are interested. Historically, it's important, and it's also important to understand how science develops over time. The same refers to rheumatology. We know from 2000, rheumatology field changed from descriptive evaluation of diseases to comorbidities, to biological therapies. And this is why over the past 2 decades, there have been numerous articles on comorbidities and biological treatments of cytokinergic diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. Now, we may analyze all these articles, more than 16,000 articles in Annals of Rheumatic Diseases. Pay attention again to famous article by Kjellgren and Lawrence about osteoarthritis, or formerly called osteoarthrosis. Pay attention to recommendations, EULAR recommendations, which are highly cited. And you see altmetric attention score of this old but highly top cited article is small, formed mainly because of patents, because of Mendeley users who still bookmark these articles, but there are no tweets on this article, old article. Tweets are something more associated with EULAR recommendations, with EULAR classifications or EULAR review articles, articles published by Annals of Rheumatic Diseases and other top rheumatology journals. So it's also a message for other journals. So if you wish to increase citation metrics of your journals, it's better to publish more review articles containing multiple points for citations or citable points. Now, if I analyze, you see, that's also a trick. These citations, or you see citations to this top cited journal in Annals of Rheumatic Diseases, 7,200, more than 7,200. I took these citations and I analyzed citations to these famous articles on osteoarthritis, and I see that citations to these articles still continue increasing year by year. And the top count of citations to this osteoarthritis article was in 2020, more than 600 articles to this notorious classification of osteoarthritis. You also will see that rheumatoid arthritis EULAR recommendations are also well cited, well promoted on social media, and well cited, more than 2,000 citations. But there is also combinations of attention from patents, from Mendeley. So there are differences, and these differences should be also taken into account. Now, about different journals included in rheumatology ranking. Why it's important to pay attention to ratio of references to documents, because based on these metrics, we may understand priorities of article types of for different journals. Here is top journal based on this ratio, best practice and research in clinical rheumatology. And you see that this journal has ratio of more than 80 references to doc. What does it mean? It means that this journal publishes review articles, narrative review articles. This is why, on average, references in this journal exceed 80 per article. Other journals also have impressive references to documents ratio. However, this ratio suggests that they publish review articles less often compared to best practice in research in clinical rheumatology, current rheumatology reviews, or biologics, targets, and therapy. Now, SJR, Scimago Journal and Country Rank, is a metric of scientific prestige of citing journals. If you wish to increase your quartile ranking, you should encourage, let's say, Nature, let's say, top rheumatology journals to cite your articles. If you manage to do that, then then SJR of your journal will go up, and there will be better quartiles for your journals based on Scimago Journal and Country Rank. So SJR also uses certain window, 3 years, and it's based on PageRank. PageRank, you're probably familiar with this algorithm used by Google to pay attention to most influential pages with high traffic. So you see that SJR is also focusing on something not so important for low-rank journals, or journals publishing articles not so widely visible, visible for local community, not so important for global community, or authors publishing primarily for top journals, top global or general medical journals, or top rheumatology journals. So it's the final slide for this part of presentation. We are going to discuss briefly and move on to experimenting, playing with Scopus searches.
Thank you, Arman. After your presentation, now we know almost all about different journal metrics and how we can use this journal metrics, for example, for targeting the best journal. Thank you very much.
Olena, please allow me to discontinue sharing my screen.
Yes. Yes. We are waiting questions from our participants who would like to make some comments or ask questions. Please Tatiana Žekić.
Tatiana Žekić, one of the leading Croatian rheumatologists, who also
Hello.
publishes a lot and reviews a lot, and her reviews are exemplary. So comment, question, Tatiana?
Well, I didn't know before everything about bibliometrics. So some things that you said, it was new for me. It was interesting how some papers have different altmetric score and score by some other bibliometrics. So probably the main point is what is more important, or is how would you rank which citation score is the most important nowadays for young doctors to understand better?
Okay, good question. I understand that your main concern is clinical. So your question comes from clinical practice. Whether bibliometrics, altmetric scores are of any importance for clinicians, particularly for young clinicians. Yes, they should know the importance of citation metrics and also alternative metrics. And they should understand that by going to altmetric.com platform, by analyzing social media attention to certain articles, they may also enter discussion of the importance of recommendations, practice guidelines, classification criteria, and may also contribute to that discussion. And all these discussions also influence science growth. We as journal editors, as academics, we consider diversity of metrics, citation metrics alongside social media metrics. And we know that among citation metrics, we should know about total number of citations, we should know about citation-based metrics for journals, and we should never use journal impact factor to evaluate quality of individual articles. In Lancet, in Nature, individual articles can be of mediocre quality, of not so high quality, but their citation numbers can be high. So we should not use citation metrics and never should use journal impact factor to evaluate quality of individual articles. That's also important for young clinicians.
Yes, but I can say something from my own country and my own faculty in Rijeka, that if you want to move on with your career to the next step, from assistant to associate professor and so on, there are some obligations that you have to achieve, and the minimum is to publish in a paper with impact factor bigger than 1. The bigger it gets, it's better. And every year we have this like a little show to present what we have done at our clinic. It's internal medicine clinic, and the best published papers are from gastroenterology department, and they are usually from journals that are involved in gastroenterology with impact factor of 5 or more, and that is always something that they always say we publish in the best in the journals with in the journals with the biggest impact factor. They don't really say that others are also
good at
yes, but and it's also, it is different to publish in rheumatic cardiology or gastroenterology. It's very different for every different specialty.
You are quite right, Tatiana. So the same problem with obsession with impact factor exists in many other countries. You probably know that one of the best journals in your country is Croatian Medical Journal, though their impact factor is close to 1, not so high. But they consider publishing top quality articles without paying attention to citation implications. Of course, it would be great to have review articles by American specialists or Anglophone specialists publishing in Croatian Medical Journal to increase citation metrics. However, they have their own priorities. The same with your universities and research departments. They should pay attention not to journal impact factor, not to quartiles of journal. These are changing year by year. They should pay attention to individual quality of article. And for PhD candidates, they should pay attention whether they fulfilled their requirements. They cannot publish in top-ranked journals. They cannot publish in journals with high impact factor because they have their own priorities and rarely consider PhD candidate submissions. So there should not be any journal impact factor obsession in Central Eastern European countries and many other countries. Journal impact factor game was introduced by Web of Science years ago, and now they revising their strategy, and this is why they now have not just journal impact factor but also IGEN factor, new metric for this year, journal citation index for journals covered by emerging sources citation index. So your research administrators should consider diversity of metrics, and they should move away from journal impact factor and should focus on individual quality of an individual article. How many times it's cited, why it's cited, context, whether it's promoted on social media, whether there is positive feedback on social media, or there may be also negative feedback based on spotting plagiarism, based on negative comments on redundancy of an article. So everything should be considered in the context. And your research administrators, particularly in Europe, those who endorsed San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment, DORA, they should consider a basket of metrics and should move away from a single metric for individual article evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It was great pleasure to see you at last, at a long last. Other questions? If not, we will have more discussion. Now I am going.
Professor Konstantinovich would like to ask a question. Yes.
Just a brief question. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for your very elegant overview, Armen. And thank you for the last comment. I continue to like your basket or combination of of the indices and scores, because it offers us a real, it reflects a real status of an individual article. That's right. And what about, and regarding the Tatiana Jekic comments or considerations, the impact factor is in fact the heritage of some old tradition, and this is just a little bit artificial. And you taught us, Armen, several times that we should broaden the spectrum of the article quality assessment. It's obvious, because there are, I totally agree, there are some low but stable impact factor journals with the very good quality articles. And this is a little bit tricky thing. And what about academic career? Tatiana, you are right. It's very similar in Poland and probably in many other countries that they look at the summary of the track record and the cumulative impact factor. Well, sometimes Hirsch index is, of course, additionally added to the pool to this evaluation score. However, they sometimes, I mean, research administrators and many other authorities, including deans of the faculties, etc., they make some approximation, which might be unfair or might be even harmful to some researchers. Why? Just brief explanation. If they look at the papers, some authors have play different, as you told us at the beginning of the webinar, they play different roles according to the contribution in the articles. Our university, for example, consider only the first author for the habilitation dissertation and the higher PhD advances in the academic career, and either the first author or the senior researcher, the last author. They have removed the last author as a contributor, as an important or valid contributor. So, in other words, only and solely the first author matters, which is unfair, because sometimes the contribution might be equal. Sometimes in papers, in original research papers, authored by 5, 7, or 9 authors, the roles might be of the same significance. So it's not only just the first hero who is the responsible for the corresponding author might sometimes have much more responsibility, or might have some burden of responsibility for the future societal impact, or social media life, post publication life, than the first author, for example. So it should be, I totally agree, should be considered in a very smart and intelligent manner, not just like that, very automatic, impact higher, you receive the degree. That's why some university people receive the professorship or full professorship, or just, I'm not the best researcher at my university, of course, but I'm very critical towards some co-authors of several guidelines, recommendations, or in particular clinical trial results. But probably this is the problem, or an issue we should concern in several post-Eastern European countries. Thank you.
Mhm.
Good point and good comment. Of course, in Ukraine, there are also almost all professors in the field of rheumatology have low rank based, so-called low rank, based on citation metrics, because they publish in their local journals mostly, and they became professors publishing based on their local recommendations. And impact factor citations were not so important 10, 20 years ago. So we should gradually move away from journal impact factor dominance, and we should consider many other academic achievements. Reviewer role, how many reviews, how many good reviews, or those ranked by Publon's platform, how many conference attendances, how many lectures, academic activities are brought. They cannot be limited to just articles in top journals. Publishing is in Nature or Science, other top journals, publishing just letters means nothing. More important, other criteria should be also considered. So thank you very much for excellent comment, excellent understanding of all points we've discussed today. Thank you, Professor Konstantinovich.
Thank you.
Olena?
Let's move to the final item of our program.
Okay, let me first, I should activate something. and then share my screen. Good. So please allow me to share my screen.
You can do this. Yes, I can see
So
your
you
screen.
see Scopus platform, yeah?
Yes.
Good. Okay, today we have Sinan Kardeş, Ahmet Akyol, Burhan Fatih Kocigit from Turkey, Neslihan Gökçen, and also Lady Professor Cansu from Turkey. All of them are from Turkey. And I know that they are interested in Behçet disease, in vasculitis, in COVID-19. Some of them are going to publish good articles. So we are going to discuss today some elements of their bibliometric and altmetric articles. All of them are clinicians, but I am sure they will learn a lot by so-called playing or experimenting with Scopus searches. Okay, here is Scopus search. Usually it allows to search keywords in article title, abstract, and keywords. But we may also change our search strategy based on our preferences. Okay, let's search COVID-19. If we wish to expand our searches, we may include other keywords. Let's say Behçet syndrome, or interchangeably used Behçet's disease. So, okay, let's move on. You see, only 7 articles tagged with COVID-19 and Behçet syndrome. What does it mean? It means that this field not well explored by studies. So it's relatively new field, and there is no need to analyze, to use this tool, analyze search result. However, you may individually, manually analyze this article and pay attention to origin of articles related to COVID-19 and Behçet's disease. Not all of them strictly relate to Behçet's disease. There is only 1 article out of 7 closely related to COVID-19 and Behçet's disease, case series published by Annals of Rheumatic Diseases. So those who are interested in this topic will analyze this particular article. However, we may change our search strategy by going back. Instead of Behçet's, we may use rheumatoid arthritis. Again, important for clinicians, those who are going to retrieve evidence base, they may use searches through Scopus this way. Okay, rheumatoid arthritis. Presumably, of course, we see that the number is impressive, 561 Scopus documents. And now we may use this analytic tool, analyze search results. Let's go for a moment and analyze these documents, all documents, without visualization, without using VOS viewer. Simply, we may use these graphs, these figures, to analyze, first of all, where these articles are published. By Annals of Top Rheumatology Journal, 44 journals. By other journals, top 5 journals interested in COVID-19 and rheumatoid arthritis. You see these journals. Okay, you may go to Annals of Rheumatic Diseases and individually, manually process articles on rheumatoid arthritis and COVID-19. some American specialists or top rheumatologists always consider evidence coming from annals of rheumatic diseases. So it's their opinion. But evidence is in rheumatology spread across 50, around 60 Scopus index journals. Because in Scopus, there are only good quality rheumatology journals. Now, we may also analyze who publishes in this field and why. So we may contact top author in this field. Scopus has its own algorithm of tagging articles based on affiliations and based on authorship. Then, which countries? Of course, US is the top country publishing in this field. Document type in Scopus, not so important. It's more important for PubMed. As medic, I do not consider these graphs, this pie chart important, because most articles are, we cannot see proper. Okay, articles, 46% of all these articles are simply tagged as articles. Original research papers, trials, observational research, 24% reviews, letters, etc., etc. In PubMed, we may perform searches and we may classify all these articles based on type of research: clinical trial, cohort study, case series, systematic review, narrative review, letter, etc. Okay, let's go back and pay attention to funding. You see this bit of information: funding, sponsor. Why it's important. Today we have participants, journal editors, who should convince their authors to put funding information in footnotes of articles, because this information is tracked by Scopus and Web of Science. Well, now about this number. So rheumatoid arthritis is well represented in relation to COVID-19. And if we are interested, we may thoroughly analyze this field. We may go also to keywords. You see this bit of information. View all keywords. Then you may you may also manually calculate percentages of all these items and find out why these articles are important. Sorry for technical problem. So we do not pay attention to access mode, open access, hybrid. It's not so important in the context of searches of certain topics. Keywords are more important, and we may pay attention. So we see that hydroxychloroquine is one of the top keywords, and we may calculate percentage, and we understand why hydroxychloroquine is one of the top keywords in relation to COVID-19 and rheumatoid arthritis, because of some erroneous publication in Lancet and because of erroneous or politicized promotion of hydroxychloroquine. Okay, what else we need to know? We should also use this option to pay attention to cited by to rank articles in this particular field based on citations. So let's go to citations. It's actually ranked articles based on citations. Sorry. So I should go again and press cited by highest. And now I may analyze top 10, top 20, top 100 articles, but it's more logical to analyze top 10 highly relevant articles, top 10 cited highly relevant articles, and understand why these highly cited articles are important. So clinicians should pay attention to highly cited articles. And knowing that the article in Nature Reviews Immunology is highly cited relates to pathophysiology of COVID-19 in relation to immunity, inflammation. So COVID-19 is an infectious disease. However, it's also an autoimmune rheumatic disease considered by some because it evokes production of antibodies, different types of antibodies. And there will be a number of articles on autoimmunity profile of COVID-19. And it's considered as rheumatic disease. Why? Because most immunologists, most autoimmunity specialists describe a number of features. And again, these citation numbers also suggest that COVID-19, particularly in relation to rheumatoid arthritis, is an autoimmune manifestation, combined or so-called multi-morbidity manifestation. Because as a clinician, I also know that COVID-19 and rheumatoid arthritis may increase risk of different autoimmune manifestations. Some of these manifestations also end up with venous thrombosis. COVID-19 itself quite similar to vasculitis, particularly to Behçet's disease, because of shared similarities in pathophysiology, venous involvement, and also venous thrombosis. Okay, if we continue analyzing in this direction, we may pay attention to other rheumatic diseases. Let's say systemic lupus erythematosus, if it's correct. Okay, let's press and see numbers. Slightly less. However, again, we should pay attention to highly cited papers, where these papers are published. You see, one of top 5 articles published in Lancet Psychiatry somehow relates to lupus. And probably, I just guess that COVID-19 patients treated, particularly severe COVID-19 patients treated with corticosteroids, high doses of corticosteroids causing acute psychosis and a number of other neurological manifestations of this comorbidity, of this even more multimorbidity. Okay, why this combination is important? Again, we should analyze top 10 articles, 10 articles. May also pay attention to rituximab, because Scopus searches for bibliometric and altmetric analysis should be performed by experts knowing why they need these searches. Okay, I included COVID-19 and lupus, and now I ended up with this article, top cited article. Should go to, let's say, to publisher site, and you see that I have altmetric IT tool. I press altmetric IT tool on my window panel. It allows me to visualize this article. I go to altmetric.com, automatically navigate to altmetric.com site and analyze the importance of social media attention to this article. Of course, it's a new article, so number of tweets is high, more than 400. It's important article published by top journal. This is why citation count is also high. And of course, I pay attention to Mendeley count. Mendeley count may predict high citation numbers. And I see that there is, based on these few examples, you also see that there is a close relation or correlation or association between Mendeley bookmarkings and citations on dimension and Scopus. I also pay attention who often refers to this article. US, no any attention from Eurasia, even from China to this article, surprisingly. Okay, so these tools are important for analysis. These are elements. So if you combine, if you know why you perform your Scopus searches, you will produce bibliometric and altmetric study, altmetric paper, combination of bibliometrics and altmetrics. Now, we also may search different journals. We discussed these different journals. Of course, you should know, and clinicians should know, why this cancer journal for clinicians is so popular, so highly cited. And journal editors should know that if they publish a lot about oncology, indexing of their journal increases, indexability increases. I know experimental oncology journal from Ukraine, from Eastern Europe, covered by Medline and Scopus, because it's priority topic, and it will remain priority topic oncology. The same with radiology, the same with radiation hygiene. So these type of topics in the context of individual articles and journals are important, and important also for Scopus, Web of Science, and other databases. Okay, let's go to top journal with high cite score. You see these metrics. I mentioned about nominator of these cite scores. Cite score is calculated for 4-year window, and they process here in nominator all citations within 4 years to all sources covered by Scopus. Conference proceedings, books, journals, the same, and in a denominator, they have articles published by this particular journal over the past 4 years. So 4-year window. You see the number is just 110 reviews, and if they have numerous or abundance of citations, of course, cite score will be calculated astronomically high. For clinicians, it means nothing, because they do not understand difference between 400 and just 5. But as experts, as journal editors, we should understand this difference, and we should also analyze citations. So I may also analyze citations and visualize these citations, but for some reason, I will go to ongoing cite score value. Okay, let's go to nominator of cite score. Again, with the same tools, we may perform analysis of citing sources. So I analyze the sources of citing sources, and we see that this journal received relatively small amount of citations in 2018, more next year, peak citations in 2020, and not so high, relatively lower citations in the current year. So, but probably by the time of final calculation of cite score, of course, the 2021 citations will also go up. For me, the most important part of calculation is citing sources. You see, this is good journal because there are no journal auto citations. Most citations come from other index journals. However, if the abundance of citations come from the same journal, it's not good. To analyze not so highly cited journal, I'll choose again field of rheumatology. I'm more familiar with field of rheumatology. Let's go to field of rheumatology and consider 105 sources. Okay, I'm not going to discuss these big 10 or big 20 journals. I'll go to lowest site score. I may also go to light. You see that there are some journals without metrics not available. Some of these are new journals, but let's say arthritis is discontinued journal. Last year, the journal was discontinued because of some reasons. Arthritis and rheumatism, formerly, it's arthritis and rheumatology, former name of this ACR journal. Okay, let's go to journal which should correct their editorial policy, because otherwise this journal will lose its Scopus indexing. Not so easy to find. Yeah, this journal, Russian journal. You see, site score is relatively small, 1.2. But if we go to sources of citing journals, 1.1, 355 citations. And if we press and analyze, we'll see the following picture. Citations increase, but most citations to this journal from Russia. And now 96 citations come from the same journal or sister journal. So more than 100 citations come from sister journal. It's a real issue for this journal in terms of evaluation and maintenance in Scopus. So journal editors should also pay attention to their metrics. And if we analyze this journal, we may also analyze by going to all documents. Okay, let's go to all documents. More than 400 indexed documents. Again, we may analyze these results. And if we pay attention to who are the authors out of 426 documents, more than 100 articles are by current or by editors, handling editors of this journal. So it's not good. Or if we go deeper and analyze all other authors, we may find out that almost all top 10 authors are from the same university, from the same institute, which is unacceptable for Scopus and other bibliographic databases, considering diversity. So always pay attention to diversity of your authors. And chief editors should always abstain from publishing, for submitting articles to their own journal, particularly if the number exceeding hundreds. So that's unacceptable. All articles should be peer-reviewed, but of course it's impossible to ensure objectivity and quality of peer review if an article is submitted by chief editor. It's easy to understand that submission is from handling editor, and there will be, of course, conflict of interest. Okay, search strategy of Scopus allows a lot, and we may also use this strategy to analyze profiles of individual authors, individual affiliations, if we need to, let's say, let's try Lviv. And let's consider, I know that Ivano-Franko, National University of Lviv. So that's also important search strategy if you are interested in certain universities. It's particularly important for research managers. They should know who are their authors, in which field they are active, let's say physics and astronomy, and may analyze also profiles of their, so Banach Taras, probably he is mathematician from Lviv. We may also analyze profile of top author from Lviv National University, paying attention to H index, where this specialist publishes, and publication activity. Of course, publication activity is impressive. We may also pay attention to top cited articles by the same author, where he published. So good profile, diversity of journals covered by this author. And yes, he is a mathematician. So the same way, we may also go to ORCID ID of this author and analyze many other features. Okay, any other questions up to this moment? Sinan, Burhan?
We have one comment from Professor Konstantinovich. Promotion, self-promotion, advertising, fashionable and trendy topics, or last but not least, yes, politics. None of the categories should be mixed with published medical research. You are right, Professor Gasparyan.
Okay, so
and one comment, one more comment. Thank you very much for your impressive presentation. How would you explain that Scopus has so many features, but is less known and not used often?
Who asked that question?
Our participant from Turkey, Dandu.
Dandu.
Yes.
Okay, Professor Cansu. Okay. So first of all, about self-promotion. It's easy to track journal self-citations, author self-citation, chief editors, pushy articles, pushy behavior, and abuse of power, publishing articles in the same journal. Scopus evaluators, Scopus chairs immediately disqualify this type of journals because of violation of their principles of covering journals with diversity of authors, diversity of geographic coverage. So self-promotion should be avoided by skilled, ethical chief editors, handling editors, and also editorial board members. I know that there are some journals in Central and Eastern Europe, particularly in Ukraine, startup journals where chief editors cannot find external authors. They abundantly published in their own article. That suggests that there is no healthy flow of our submissions to that journal. In top journals, there is another extreme, a healthy flow, but chief editors always consider their articles of higher priority compared to other submissions. So that these are two extremes. Both should be avoided. In terms of Professor Cansu's question about from Eskişehir, Turkey, about Scopus, why still Scopus not so important? I don't know why, because all over the world, all university ranking systems use Scopus-based data, not Web of Science. Shanghai system, QS, World University Ranking Systems, the Times Higher Education System, they consider number of articles and citations, Scopus citations, for ranking universities, along with many other factors. So, by presenting Scopus as a useful search platform, as a reliable bibliographic database, as a democratic and one of the leading database in the field of medicine and many other subject areas, I encourage you to use more free options, free search options, and also subscription options. Scopus allows to use their platform without subscription, but if you have subscription via your university or as a contributor to Elsevier journal or as a reviewer, you may use Scopus continuously and benefit from information from searches from Scopus. Scopus is the largest bibliographic database. It covers articles in more than 40 languages, even in Turkish, even in Ukrainian language. But if you publish in your local languages, your articles should be also of some importance to global audience. You should justify why articles in Ukrainian language may be important, may be read, cited, or commented by authors from other countries. So Scopus is one of the best bibliographic database from another point of view. Let's go to our searches. Any example, top cited article in this field, COVID-19 and lupus. Let's go to so you see profile of this individual article. You see also metrics profile and PLUMX metrics. So you may see details. So Scopus integrated with Plum Analytics to cover social media attention to their articles as well. So not just Scopus citations, but also tweets, news channels, other social media, other online platforms are covered by PLUMX in PlumPrint. It's called PlumPrint, these metrics. And you can see details of social media attention to this particular article, analyze in detail, Mendeley bookmarkings, Facebook's tweets, Facebook mentions, tweets, etc., etc. This is why Scopus is a rapidly developing bibliographic database, absorbing new information, particularly in the field of altmetrics. Now you should probably understand that altmetrics is important. It's not just for play, not just for pleasure to share information on Facebook, on Twitter. Everything can be captured somewhere and everything can be analyzed. So thank you very much, Professor Konstantinovich, for your comment, and Professor Cansu from Poland and from Turkey. Thanks a lot. Other questions, comments? Olena?
Yes.
Are there any questions from Hub?
Thank you very much for your master class on practical skills. How can we use Scopus
But we
for
have probably
analytics? Yes.
three more questions in the chat box. Oh, now I can see. Neslihan Gökçen also appreciated. Thank you for your great presentation. These webinars are valuable for academics who want to excel at academic area. Yes, of course, particularly for those who are going to write articles, those who are going to write review articles, to process sources for systematic reviews, and also to produce new types of articles, bibliometric and altmetric articles. So I hope that points presented so far will be useful to our ongoing research fellows attending today's webinar. One new message, Tatiana Zekic, when you receive a narrative review, how many database research you expect? Probably the question is about databases. When I receive review manuscript for a journal, specialist journal, I expect searches through Medline PubMed plus Scopus plus another specialist database. Let's say Pedro for physiotherapy or PMR specialist, or Sinahal for nursing specialists, or Global Health for specialists in other fields, in global health, public health, toxicology. Other questions? Olena? Now I am stopping sharing my
Yes.
screen. Okay.
Before we finish, who would like to add something, to say something about today's webinar, some comments, propositions, offers, probably interesting topics for the next webinar? Добрий день. Professor Zimankovsky from Danila Galitsky Lviv National Medical University, as always, is with us.
From the very beginning.
Yes.
Man, for your wonderful, wonderful lecture. You are the best every time, forever.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For me, the most important thing is that the number of participants at the beginning and now almost the same. So thank you very much for your attention, for participation, and also for your comments, questions. We will continue working on your papers, journals, and we'll continue arranging webinars serving to the purpose, helping ongoing research fellows to produce better quality articles, manuscripts, and targeting top journals in specialist fields and also in general scientific fields, Nature, Science, and other journals. Hopefully.
Probably Professor Lonchina or Professor Stoika would like to say something.
I can start video.
Yes, Professor Stoika. One moment. Yes, you can start.
Okay.
We can hear you, but we can. Oh, yes, we can see you. Thank you.
So, Professor Gasparian, thank you very much. And I would like to say that many things you were talking about, they are still not in practice in Ukrainian scientometrics, if you can say such a term, because if you want to use, it should be evaluated. Still, these norms, these rules, they are not evaluated according to the evaluation of the scientific work of individual scientists or departments or universities. So if the Academy of Science or the ministry say, this is number 1, Hirsch is number 2, impact factor is number 3, and the location of the author in the list, in a long list of courses, is also very important. If it's not under the norms, it's only a good advice, but not usable. So thank you very much. Those people who are present, and there are many people from medical university and some people from abroad, hopefully they already use that system. It will work. I do believe it will work. So thank you.
Professor Stoika, thank you very much. Professor Stoika is the president of Ukrainian Association of Ukrainian Council of Science Editors, and with help of your council, will promote best knowledge, best practice in using scientometric information, in using bibliometrics wisely, and avoiding inappropriate uses and abuses of journal impact factor or other metrics for evaluation of individual articles and also individual specialists. Hirsch index should not be the main indicator for Eastern and Southeastern specialists, those who start just now to introduce, to change their research evaluation strategies. Research evaluation strategies in your country, in your part of world, different from US or Western Europe based standards. So this is why your research evaluators, your research managers should understand that difference and should use scientometrics and bibliometrics wisely. Thank you very much, Professor.
Okay, thank you. I'm just after the elections to the National Academy of Science. So at that elections, Hirsch index was very important. So something is moving in Ukraine. So thank you.
Okay, it would be interesting to know about Nobel Prize winners' Hirsch index, historic and current. Whether we can use Hirsch index to award Nobel Prize to specialists with high or low Hirsch index. That's the main criterion.
But we have elected several foreign members to the National Academy of Science, and some from Austria, from Germany. The Hirsch was 163 or something like that. So, but
of course, this is why you shouldn't compare Ukrainian and Austrian specialists based on Hirsch index. It should be excluded, and Hirsch index should be used wisely. Not just numbers, not just citations. Citations sometimes also come from active research groups. However, Nobel Prize winners or Alexander Penicillin, I forgot his name.
Fleming.
Alexander Fleming did not have any Hirsch index, but he invented penicillin.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Professor Loncina?
Yeah, you know, and the same with the German physician, Werner Forssmann, who was the first to catheterize the heart on himself in the 30s. He did not write any papers, or maybe he wrote 1 or 2, but I'm sure his Hirsch index is like 0. And he won a Nobel Prize. Fairly late in life, but that, you know, so a Nobel Prize is for an idea, for a discovery, and not for necessarily your ability to write about idea or your discovery. So I think, you know, I don't think we need to put that much emphasis on, I mean, it has its purpose, but it can't be the holy grail of publication. So anyway, again, another great lecture series. Thank you very much. And we look forward to continuing dialogue. And I only wish that more of our Ukrainian researchers and physicians would participate. I mean, we have about the same kind of group, and we have a lot of non-Ukrainian, which is fantastic, participants, but we need to somehow extend ourselves to bring in, you know, our target audience. Our target audience is the young researchers, the young physicians that have to write. So let's try and cast a wide net and bring them in, because these are excellent presentations.
Thank you very
Till
much.
next time.
And we should aim to increase number of articles published in English, even for local Ukrainian journals, to attract attention of readers from US, from UK and Western Europe. Because without their evaluation, without their attention, Hirsch indexes of local Ukrainian scientists cannot go up. So we should increase activity of ongoing research fellows, young fellows, Ukrainian and Eastern European, to publish more, to push them to publish more in English, and to increase, widen their prospects of research cooperation. Now we have specialists from attending this webinar from Bulgaria, from Turkey, from Croatia. Why not to expand our Central and Eastern European cooperation? Why not to have exchange program and invite specialists from Ukraine to Poland, Professor Konstantinovich and others? So this type of cooperation should grow, should involve more research fellows, but at the same time, specialists from US like Professor Lonchina should share more his knowledge, his experience in English, in pure, in native English with colleagues from Ukraine. I know that you have your program, bioethics program from Loyola University, Chicago. Hopefully it would be also important to involve English-speaking specialists from Eastern Europe to join that program of bioethics.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Olena, other comments?
Armen, thank you very much for your important contribution, for your support, for really insightful lectures
Okay.
with really important information for all of us. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I would like to thank you to all our participants, to organizers of today's meeting, to Danilo Halitsky, Lviv National Medical University, to Ukrainian Council of Science Editors also. Thank you very much.
And to Olena Zimba.
Thank you.
Our hero moderator, yeah. On my part, I also would like to express my gratitude to Danilo Halitsky, Lviv National Medical University, Ukrainian Council of Science Editors, Shevchenko Scientific Society, and I think Western Scientific Society also is our supporter, and we also cooperate with specialists from Western Scientific Society. So my special thanks to newcomers, to Tatiana Žekić from Rijeka, Croatia, to Professor Cansu from Eskişehir, Turkey, all Turkish fellows attending our webinar series and supporting, not just attending, but also supporting and sharing good word about these webinars. Hopefully all these points will be also used by their colleagues, by clinicians who will learn, who will follow our initiative and will pay more attention to Scopus searches, will use Scopus searches in their review articles. To our Bulgarian specialists also, my cordial thanks to all our fellows who invest a lot, who work on their local journals and also expand cooperation with Ukraine and other European countries. Hopefully, Ukrainian or European Council of Science editors will consider expanding their cooperation and including members, not just from Ukraine, but also from Bulgaria, Turkey, Croatia, and other, Poland. Special thanks to all our mentors, to seniors, Professor Stoica, Professor Lanchina, Professor Konstantinovich. Yeah, and of course, thanks to Olena Zimba, our moderator, who spends a lot of time on promoting best standards in research reporting and publishing. Hopefully all these points will be useful primarily to Eastern European and Ukrainian journals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. This was excellent. Armen, Olena, thank you to all the
Thank you.
participants.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.